Hey everybody, I'm Audra, and today I would like to talk to you about something that could be helpful to a lot of people right now or in the very near future, and that is regaining your sense of smell. Some of you may have experienced what a lot of YouTubers call the Roni Rona or the beer bug. And if you have, you may have been affected by one of the more unusual symptoms, which is loss of smell. To give a little background on why I'm making this video in the first place, while my husband and I were in California in early 2020, I got a very unusual sickness. For me, it started with a sore throat that was very different from anything that I've ever experienced before. It was a pain almost like strep throat, but it didn't last for days. It lasted a very short amount of time, but it was very painful. I started to get fevers that would last for just a short time, and I also had trouble feeling like I could really get a good breath. Sometimes when I breathed, there was even a strange kind of rattling noise. It's like it was at the base of my lungs, and I'd never experienced anything like that before, even when I've been extremely stopped up or congested. At the worst point, I just felt very weak and as though I couldn't take a few steps without feeling very winded, as though I'd been running. Now, of course, a lot of people have had very different symptoms, and no one's situation seems to be exactly the same. I also lost my appetite, and I found that I wasn't ever craving anything, which was extremely odd because I love cooking. My husband and I both cook, almost gourmet meals most days of the week. Next, I suddenly lost my sense of smell. Once I became sick, I would say that about 98% of the things I had previously been able to smell, I could not smell them at all anymore. Sure, sometimes it's nice to not have a sense of smell, like when I'm chopping garlic or when there's stinky garbage or other gross stuff. Not only did I lose my sense of smell during that time, but it didn't come back for months. I started to just live with the loss and get used to it because at least I didn't have to smell bad things anymore. I always try to find the positive even when something bad is going on. Speaking of really gross smells, one day Brant and I were outside and he smelled this awful smell. And of course, I was no help because I couldn't smell anything. We tried and tried to figure out what it was. And it wasn't until we came back later that I realized there was a dead fish. So there was a dead, gross fish, and he was smelling that horrible smell. And I'm serious, I could not smell it in the least. All of this to say, my nose simply was not doing its full job. So what about you? Have you lost your sense of smell? Are you having trouble tasting things? A lot of times our sense of taste is tied into being able to smell. It's kind of like the weird experiment where people try to eat an apple and an onion, but they're blindfolded and their nose is closed so that they can't tell what it is. But the actual taste and texture are very, very similar. They say also, I think, that potatoes are that way. Weird roundabout story, but I promise I will get to the helpful stuff in just a minute. I was doing work on my car and I realized that because I haven't been using it much, mice or squirrels or something had started storing nuts around the engines of our cars. After cleaning up, I wanted to make sure that the critters would not come back and try to live in our cars. And so I've heard before that clove oil is actually a major repellent for them. They don't like the smell at all. So I happen to have a bottle in my kitchen. I very strategically placed a few drops around the engine, but what I didn't realize is that some of the oil had actually spilled on the sleeve of my shirt. Now, clove oil is a very strong smell, especially in essential oil form. The strangest thing started to happen after that. Not only would I smell little whiffs of it from spilling it on my sleeve, as my husband and I went outside to play croquet, I started to notice little smells that I had not smelled in a long time. I was especially excited, and I'm sure my husband thought I was completely just crazy because he started to peel a fresh tangerine. He had pulled it down from the tree, and I suddenly smelled it, and I just got so excited. He was at least 20 feet away from me, and I'm sure the wind helped bring it over, but still, this was just insane. To be honest, I thought that maybe I had discovered this new scientific secret or a cure that nobody else had ever known about. I could not wait to tell the whole world and, try to help during all of this. So, of course, I hopped on the internet to start doing some research, and first I wasn't crazy, so that was a nice thing. But it turns out that other people since 2009 have been doing studies on this, and there are groups that have absolutely found that you can train your sense of smell to come back depending on how long you wait after you lose it and things like that. A lot of people call this smell training or olfactory training, and it can be helpful for people who have had some sort of virus. It can be helpful for people who have had brain injuries too. But huge disclaimer, I am not a doctor. I was an English major and a Spanish minor. I have no business being a medical expert of any sort. This is for me to tell you what I've experienced and point you to other experts. Dr. Sina Jarabci, who is an ear, nose, and throat doctor, has said in his videos that there is no bad side effect from doing this smell training. So that's really wonderful. And it's not like you need a prescription for this. It's not something where you have to actually go to the hospital or something of that nature. It's just a helpful thing that anyone can do at home. Obviously, essential oils are highly concentrated, so please do not ingest them or put them on your skin or use them on pets. Especially don't use them on children without learning their proper uses and proper dilutions first. I'm sure if you go on social media and just ask your friends, someone you know sells essential oils. Otherwise, you can get essential oils at drugstores or places even like Target. Just be aware that each company has different grades and different sustainability practices and purity standards. So that can be really, really important. The 4 main essential oils that are mentioned most often for regaining your sense of smell are clove oil, lemon oil, rose oil, and eucalyptus oil. Experts suggest having 4 small glass jars with lids and using a piece of absorbent paper without loose fibers, such as watercolor paper. Cut out 4 circles to put 1 in the bottom of each jar. Then you would label the jars for each different scent and add 5 to 10 drops of the specific oil in its respective container. The goal is to saturate the piece of watercolor paper at the base of the jar so that the air inside will have a very strong smell. Be sure to keep the lids fastened tightly when not in use. And they suggest usually having a dark colored jar that will actually protect from sunlight. Sunlight tends to degrade the quality of essential oils, and you want these to last for, at least 3 months. Personally, I just have the individual bottles of oil, and I very carefully make sure not to touch the applicator parts of those because you don't want to get any germs or contaminants into the oil. Twice a day, 10 seconds per scent, I will remove the cap and I'll go ahead and just take a little whiff, and you let the smell go into the top of your nose. It's not something where you want to breathe it down into your lungs. That's not necessary at all. You just take a little whiff, and as you do, it's really helpful to associate it in your brain a lot of different ways. So memories of times when you've had that smell before. So for example, for me, making apple cider. So imagine actually having the cloves for the apple cider and visualize those. And that's supposed to work with your brain connections to really reinstill and build your ability to smell and associate. All in all, this is a reasonably inexpensive way to regain your sense of smell. It is a large time commitment, but if you throw it in with another habit, say brushing your teeth, where you go ahead and do your smell training beforehand, it will be a lot easier to remember and feel more natural. Christy Kelly is the founder of a group called Absent, spelled Abscent. So get it like The lack of scent is absent. It is a nonprofit group in Wales and England. I've linked a video below where Christy Kelly shows you how to do all these things. She suggests keeping a smell journal, and that is something that I've been doing. I started out writing the things that I could smell because there were only a few of those, so that made it a lot easier. And I put mine on my cell phone in my notes so that I'll have very easy access. And anytime I smell something that I haven't been able to smell in a while, I'll go ahead and write that down and just really kind of emphasize it and solidify it in my mind to help keep that training going. I've definitely noticed that though I could always taste food, because I'm getting my sense of smell back, it's like the flavors are a lot more bold, so that's been great. I think it's important to warn you that the biggest change I experienced was the first day. I think because it's almost like you go from 0 to something. It's such a noticeable difference. Definitely don't get discouraged if you have just a wonderful first day and suddenly you're smelling all these great smells again, but maybe for the rest of the week it doesn't seem like you're advancing as much as you did that first day. Considering that everyone's situation is going to be very different, you'll probably have very different results. Don't get discouraged, don't give up. I mean, some people don't experience much of a difference at the beginning. Sometimes it takes weeks for them to actually start to gain their smell. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if so, feel free to hit the like button and to share it with people that it may help. My whole goal with this is to help at least one person start to get their sense of smell back. I think that's it for now. If you would like to learn more, just check out the links below. Much love, have an awesome day, and be good to each other.